The greatest motorsport battle of all time. In 1987, as Cyril Neveu was pushing the limits, Hubert Auriol desperately tried fixing his flat tire.
Suddenly the advantage was switching back to Cyril Neveu.
One puncture. That's all it took to lose Dakar. A clash of titans, an edition that exposed a fundamental problem with the off-road world. Many top-level races were won and lost because of it. That year was just another example how technical limitations could influence greatness. Ever since, an industry was formed around solving this.
An unsolvable problem. The issue I'm talking about? Laid with the most simple bike component, the wheel.
Our story starts a full century before the infamous Dakar stage, featuring a cow.
That's only because our protagonist was a Scottish veterinarian, but that's beside the point.
Back then, vehicles had full rubber tires. Reliable, sure, but offered an awful ride over rough surfaces. John Boyd Dunlop went to design an inner tube encased in a rubberized piece of cloth and stuck that inside a carved-out tire. At first, the technology was clunky, but with time it evolved, and these inner tubes got to power motorcycles for decades. But as our motorcycles got faster, more powerful, they revealed a massive problem.
The more power an engine makes, the quicker it will want to spin the rear wheel. Usually, the bead of the tire was the only thing keeping the piece of rubber connected to the rim.
As power levels went up, sometimes this friction was not enough, and the rim started spinning faster than the tire. The main problem here, this caused the valve stem, component that's poking through the rim, to rip apart, essentially ending the ride for good. With the faster bikes of the 60s, 70s and later, engineers had to come up with a solution. The rim lock. This little device would mount inside the tire and attach to the rim. Its shape wedges against the tire bead, physically locking it to the rim.
Finally, problem solved. But then, bikes got even faster.
The more aggressive the riders got, the more regular tubes started showing their limits. Spikes could puncture through the tire and penetrate the tubes. When running lower pressures for added grip, heavier impacts can compress the tire so much that the inner rim ends up touching the outside tire. In turn, this pinches the tube, stopping a ride in its tracks. The better our bikes got, the bigger our ambitions, the more things became clear. Regular tubes were not going to cut it any longer. Our industry had to find a solution.
Let's think through this together. How could we solve this? We could just make the tube way thicker. Such tubes were developed, doubling the amount of rubber used and thus increasing the level of protection.
Also, just like regular tubes, these ultra heavy duty units could be used with any wheel and tire combo. But you might have seen this coming. While UHD tubes did reduce punctures, they didn't eliminate them. And that in itself wouldn't be too bad if these upgraded tubes didn't weigh a lot.
Rubber is heavy, so doubling down on it added a lot of weight to a bike's wheels. And all that sacrifice for no puncture certainty.
With the Dakar Rally getting faster, more extreme, pushing the limits of the 80s, racers needed a better solution. Those years were plagued with punctures, these tubes oftentimes deciding leaderboard positions. That's when Michelin introduced one of the most groundbreaking innovations in dirt bike racing: bib mousses. Fun fact, bib stands for bibendum, which is the official name of the Michelin Man. What the French engineers achieved was nothing short of impressive. They built a round foam ring that took the shape of an inflated tube. It was made out of butyl rubber foam, but this is where the clever part stood. The foam itself housed millions of microscopic cells, all sealed from each other and filled with gas. Think air or nitrogen. This was their attempt to try and replicate the feeling of a regular air tube. But engineers were faced with a problem.
The foam was great, but it was very tricky to make it retain shape. So Michelin came up with a solution.
They wrapped the foam in a light, slippery skin. This held the foam together, retaining its shape, but it served double duty. Its smooth surface made it easier to slide inside the tire. The end result was going to revolutionize two-wheeled motorsport. A system that was, at times, even lighter than heavy-duty tubes. No matter what you did to the tire, a mousse would never fail, never puncture. You could ride through spikes, any sort of terrain, and nothing would happen. Suddenly, races were decided by the rider, not by luck. This system became the industry standard. Michelin engineers had done it. Finally, problem solved.
Except, in their quest to remove air from the equation, Michelin ended up compromising a lot. Because mousses are far from a perfect solution.
For one, mounting the foam insert inside the tire can be a true pain in the rear end. Imagine putting a tube in with the tube being fully inflated.
Second, while those small gas pockets try replicating the feel of an air tube, they simply don't.
Mousses can feel quite different. For example, dropping an air-filled wheel should make it bounce. This mousse-equipped one doesn't.
These are all compromises that I would be willing to accept. Except the story doesn't end here.
In fact, we still see people with tire problems at big rally events, and not only. Weren't mousses supposed to be puncture-proof? Indeed, they are, but these foam inserts suffer from an Achilles heel. They're, by design, a ticking time bomb. There is one element that will easily kill a mousse: heat. While sitting inside the wheel, the insert rubs against the rim and the inner tire carcass. The more aggressive the rider, the more it rubs and more heat it generates. Racers will add lube to dampen the problem, but that's just a band-aid, because this foam is very sensitive to heat. With the first cycle, the foam tends to expand and stiffen up the tire. But as more cycles go by, the mousse actually starts shrinking in size as its internal cell structure breaks down over time. Also, remember that shiny skin? If it rips or deteriorates, it can expose the inner core, leading to even more premature wear. The mousse will rub, shrink, go through heat cycles until it can't take no more. And it fails.
In doing so, it transforms itself into a black dust, and surprise, you're left stranded in the middle of nowhere. That's the real problem. They're consumables. As soon as you put a mousse inside the tire, you start a timer. And it's up to you to replace them before the timer runs out.
So, can we just replace these mousses often and remove the worry altogether? Yes, we can. But that's when we arrive at the real issue with bib mousses: adjustability. As our sport evolved, different disciplines came onto the scenes. Suddenly, traction was king. Think of sports like hard enduro, a place where high speed was replaced by slow, calculated moves. And the needs from our tires shifted. But mousses can't really be adjusted.
What we could play around with is the segue to our Patreon page. It's the best way to support our channel and what we do, but now you get early access to videos in their ad-free format as soon as we're done editing them. You can become a part of our story by adding your name to the end screen credits of each film. On top of that, patrons get access to a series of raw, behind-the-scenes content, from first ride impressions to talking about future channel plans. If you go to the BWAC of Dakar, yes, it's gonna be so much real. I'm glad to finally be able to give something in return for the support you've offered us. Join us starting at about $5 a month using the link down in the description. For YouTube, absolutely nothing changes. We just wanted to give something back. Now, back to mousses. Of course, manufacturers can make them harder or softer.
Afterwards, us, riders, can drill holes in them. Some even shave parts of the top, all in the name of creating a plusher feeling. And this works, I do it myself. But in turn, their lifespan gets drastically reduced. And even then, you can't adjust the pressure easily. Even when changing tires, you want a harder or softer setup? Time to get another $100 mousse. The problem was clear. Maybe there is a better way.
What if, instead of one big foam tube, we could split it into smaller chunks? That's exactly what mousse balls are.
By inserting more or less of these segments, we can create a harder or softer setup. Suddenly, we have the reliability of a mousse with the adjustability of air. Brilliant! Except, remember what I said about heat? A regular mousse rubs against the tire carcass and the rim. These balls do the same, and on top also rub with each other, thus generating even more heat. This makes them disintegrate quicker, and once one goes, they all go faster. Plus, that vagueness characteristic to mousses is still there, and many people can't get a grip with it.
This got me thinking. The brilliance of mousse balls isn't that individual pieces can't fail. Instead, their strength lies in numbers. And if that's true, why should they be made of foam?
Introducing tire balls. Very similar to the previous system, but instead of foam cubes, you get these small air-filled pockets. Now, they are not flat-proof, but crucially, a spike can only puncture one or maybe two at a time, leaving the others intact. Being filled with air makes them infinitely adjustable while retaining the beloved airy feel of a front end. Now we have redundancy, feel, and adjustability. Did we miss anything?
Yeah, we did. There is a price to pay for all that, and I'm not talking about the dollar value.
Adjusting dozens of air balloons is extremely tedious. Suddenly, mounting a new tire with a different setup can take ages. Also, about that redundancy, sure, breaking one or two won't leave you stranded, but it will introduce some nasty vibration as part of the tire suddenly lacks support.
On paper, Having multiple smaller segments is brilliant. In real life, not many people have the time and patience to deal with it. There has to be a simple way.
What if we had gone too far? What if the answer didn't lie with replacing the tube, but with reinventing it? Introducing Lucioli. This manufacturer essentially built a very thick tube and molded rim locks within its rubber. This would secure the tube to the wheel and allow the entire system to run at very low pressures, while keeping adjustability. Want to hit a fast section? Pump up the Lucioli and go ahead. Its thickness made it pretty puncture resistant as well, and still, this came with its own set of drawbacks. 1. Installation. It's a bit of a pain. 2. It's heavy. Very much so. In fact, being thicker than a UHD tube, it's one of the heaviest systems you can install on a dirt bike. And 3.
It's a system that protects decently well against spike punctures. Also one that promotes the use of very low pressures, but critically, one that doesn't do anything against pinch flats, the main punctures that happen when running such low pressures.
Because in essence, it's just a tube. Compressing the wheel can squeeze the rubber inside between the rim and the carcass, thus cutting through it.
And I know this because we went through 2 of them in a matter of weeks just a couple years ago. The pinch flats really are Lucioli's kryptonite.
So, why not make the inflation system as an integral part of the tire? Think about it, this way there is no separate tube to pinch. Highpoint introduced their ITT system and it looked very clever. They took a layer off from the inner tire carcass and rubberized it. Engineers inserted a valve stem through this thin layer and suddenly their system came to life. Essentially, it integrated the inflation chamber within the tire, a system that could be fitted to any motorcycle, any wheel, even adventure bikes without any balancing issues. Pinch flats? A thing of the past, as there was no tube to pinch. Spikes? Easy, just plug the tire, fill it with air and keep on going.
While integrating the tube inside the tire is genius, it produced a plethora of other problems. First, mounting the system was very difficult. Since the valve stem was integrated in the tire, there was no way to guide it through a regular rim hole. But whatever, mount it once and forget about it. The real issue was, tying the tube to the tire is good, except it forces you to only run that company's tires. And Highpoint were not necessarily the best.
Suddenly, it locked you into a very limited ecosystem. And that's why they never took off. But they were a step in the right direction.
Highpoint made me wonder, why do we even need a separate inflation system? Cars and street bikes have adopted tubeless technologies for ages, yet motorcycles only did so in the past couple of decades.
What stopped us? The answer is physics. For off-roading, we tend to use spoked wheels. They are stronger and more redundant than cast, but historically, every spoke had to pierce through the rim in order to attach to it. That meant dozens of holes had to be sealed off. That's why manufacturers had to redesign the wheel. Suddenly, spokes attached to the sides or to a separate middle strip, while leaving a sealed-off area on the outside of a rim. With it, we got easy-to-mount tires with great feel and perfect balance. Spike punctures can easily be plugged. If we slash the tire, any tubeless wheel can still hold a regular tube, so there is a good backup solution. This makes tubeless wheels almost ideal for adventure riding. But, yet again, for the more aggressive settings, they have a downside.
Think about it. What holds a tire against the rim? In our case, nothing other than air pressure. You see the problem? This factor severely limits how long we can go with a tire before debeating.
It's a system that does so many things right, but can't quite give us the traction we need in extreme scenarios. We need a way to hold that tire against the rim while not exposing ourselves to flats. That's how Tubeless came to be. Not tubeless, but tubeless. This innovative system brought a clever two-chamber design. First, a high-pressure tube is mounted on the rim. This serves 2 purposes. One, it seals off that rim, essentially creating a tubeless environment inside the tire. Second, it also acts as a wraparound rim lock. This chamber is very flat and run at very high pressure, making a puncture to it pretty unlikely. In return, people can run very low tire pressures, thus generating mountains of traction. Spike flats can be plugged, that's true, but unfortunately slashes can't. Except, a tubeless will allow you to crawl home. This is almost perfect. Almost. Because, well, sure, we can crawl home. That's not good enough for racing.
We've seen so many options. All of them have pros, but crucially, all have even bigger cons. What if you could take a little bit from everything?
This is how one of the most impressive modern-day systems took shape. We start off with a tubeless, allowing us to mount it on any rim. At the same time, we add the smaller mousse inside. Initially, people would just cut a mousse in half, but better solutions showed up as time passed by.
This way, in case of a big flat, we still have the equivalent of a very worn out mousse to ride on. It's not perfect, but it's a setup that you can still race on, not just crawl around.
That's amazing, the pinnacle of modern engineering. A perfect system. Actually, about that, this approach might work for the rear, but on the front, it's not great. Because riding with anything but appropriate pressure on the front end is very difficult and sketchy. In fact, for that 21-inch tire, we want something truly foolproof. Realistically, the perfect solution does not exist. In modern times, fast-paced disciplines like rallies rely on old-school mousses. They are, after all, the best we have in terms of reliability. Any seconds lost in feel can be gained by not getting a puncture. On the other side, for extreme events, the Tubeless with a small mousse is an emerging solution, but most pros will still run a highly cut-down bib mousse. Again, sometimes you need the utmost reliability. Adventure riders mostly play in the realm of tubeless wheels and spare tubes. You know what's really amazing though? We went through so many systems, and there's even more out there that we didn't even get to mention. What started with a quest of fixing flats for rally riders evolved into an entire industry. Companies have been built around this purpose.
All trying to fix the unfixable problem, the quest to replace air. Thanks for watching.